Hi, I'm Detroit City Councilman James Tate, representing District 1, and a lot has changed in a very short period of time. Here in the state of Michigan, in just 1 month, we've gone from hand washing recommendations and no confirmed cases of COVID-19 to now more than 20,000 confirmed cases, and the governor issuing a stay-at-home order. The things that we do that make us feel normal have been placed on pause, but what hasn't stopped and unfortunately has increased are the illnesses and sudden deaths, many of which now associated with coronavirus. What makes things even more painful today is that when a loved one dies, family members are in quarantine and unable to touch and comfort each other out of fear that another family member will become ill as well. Every day when we check our social media timelines, they're filled with tributes to those who are ill or who have died unexpectedly. It's gotten to the point where many have said that they don't check their voicemails or texts as often as they used to out of fear that it's another death notice. That is a lot of information to unpack and understand. But helping us do that today is Dr. Chandra Carr. She is the founder and CEO of Miller Carr Human Services. She's going to provide us with a few tips on how to navigate this sea of depression and grief that so many of us are swimming in right now, and also how not to become numb from all this bad news that we receive on a daily basis. Dr. Carr, we want to thank you for joining us today. This is a very challenging time for a lot of people. Brand new experience, unfortunately one that has caused a lot of death and grief. And we wanted to unpack a lot of that for the folks who are watching today. We talked earlier about the stages of grief, and many people are going through that right now. For those who are not familiar with the stages of grief, can you just outline them for us?
Sure. So the stages of grief are denial, meaning you can't believe this is happening. You don't know what's going on. It's almost like it's not real to feel, what's going on. And then you have anger where you're upset about what's going on. And then bargaining comes in. And when bargaining comes in, it's like you're trying to make a deal. If this happens, then I'll do this. And then after that, we deal with depression. And that's something that most people deal with and know how it feels. But when it comes to a death of a loved one, it feels a little bit differently. And then we finally accept it. But know that these stages can come in any form, in any way. There's not an ideal 1, 2, 3 step. You can have anger before you have depression. And so it's okay. But the whole thing is to know that when you're in these stages, it's okay to feel that way and that it is normal. And there is no time frame or cookie cutter way to feel or think in any one of those stages.
Now, I also read somewhere that guilt is kind of associated in there somewhere. There's a lot of people who may be feeling guilt right now. When you looked at it, in January, we started hearing about it again, way across the other end of the world. And it was memes, a lot of people joking about it. And now it's really hit home. And so there may have been a situation where you had a partner, a friend, or someone who you may not have placed a phone call to, and there's some heaviness on your heart. Some people can't get past that feeling of guilt. What are there some tools that people can use to get past the guilt that they feel, maybe even at the fact that they're here and that loved one is no longer here in their lives?
Yes, you're right. That guilt, and with guilt comes shame. So both of those have been prevalent now, especially too for those who have loved ones that have been sick and not been able to go to the hospital or not been able to go to their home and comfort them and be with them at that time. And one thing that I like to tell people when they're dealing with guilt and shame is that you can only control the things that you can control. When we can't go to the hospital, we can't go and be with the loved one within their home because of what's going on with the pandemic, that is not your fault. You did not cause that to happen. So don't feel as though you have to take on that burden and feel bad because you're not there, because that's not true. You just have to be able to try to support them in the best way that you can. A lot of people turn to their faith for that, praying for them, believing that things are going to get better for them who are sick, but always trust in yourself and never take on things that is not your fault.
Well, and the other piece to it, when we start talking about the depression of it, when you look at your timelines on social media, many people are getting their news as well as interacting with their friends and family in the same place. So it's not easy to just turn it off. When you see the onslaught of bad news on a regular basis, and again, not knowing how long we're going to be in this situation, how can you spot if it's just feelings, the normal feelings that people go through, the cycle of grief, or something more deeper than that?
You have to monitor how much of that you're actually watching, because it's not being helpful at the time. We see things about the pandemic on the news all the time on TV, and you're right, on social media as well. So you have to be careful. Too much of that can cause you to slip into a depression, and that's not helpful for anyone, for you or anyone else that may need your help or support. So I've been telling my own clients to monitor how much time they spend with the TV, how much time they spend on the phone, concerning social media and things of that nature, because it's harder to get out of that. Now, when you're dealing with depression, a lot of times you can do things to make you feel a little better, like listening to music that you enjoy, being able to talk to people on the phone, those type of things. And I really have been promoting people to do web-based conversations. So using Zoom and other uh, applications to be able to see people when you're talking to them, because that does help tremendously. I also have been telling people to take pictures of themselves and send them to loved ones, and have different pictures around the home, because when you can look at pictures, they bring back memories. And a lot of time memories can make you smile and feel good. So if you have those things around you, that can help you lift up out of the depression because of what's going on. But definitely limit the news and the social media.
So, but again, this is now, sometimes it feels like it's easier said than done. I mean, you're someone who's trained in, these types of techniques, but for the layperson, we're not able to now communicate like we used to. We could just turn off social media and the television, but now that's really a place for us to find comfort as well, especially for those people who are at home by themselves, no kids, no significant other. Now this is their outlet. What do you suggest for those individuals? I mean, it's one thing if you have a spouse, someone who you can talk to, or someone, or even your children, that helps preoccupy your time. But for someone who's a single individual at home by themselves, who's having a rough time with this, what would you tell them to help get them through this very challenging time?
Use social media to your advantage. So you want to participate and join different groups. And I just use Weight Watchers for an example of a group, because on their group, they're helping you stay health conscious during this time. They're helping you to exercise, they're helping you to stay motivated. And there's a chat room in there where you can actually talk to other people during this time as well. So use it as a resource. And when I say don't watch it, you want to watch how much of things involving the pandemic. That's what I mean by that. Actually, use social media as a tool and a resource, and that's fine. There are all different types of groups and hobbies. People love to cook. They have different recipes on there, things that you can try at home now that we're home and people are using groceries and cooking more so than going out to eat. Try different recipes and things that's on there. They have cooking shows that's on social media. So again, use the resources that's there. When it comes to the pandemic and the negativity things that are going on, that's what you want to try to limit.
When we look at now, I've seen social media and Facebook funerals, the way that we grieve outside of just the normal process, but just even putting some sense of closure, as we say, on the death of a loved one, or even showing your respect to someone, that's now been taken away. I read somewhere, and I talked to someone, as a matter of fact, who indicated that when they lost a loved one, a husband, they didn't even get a chance to say goodbye. And they still have yet to see that individual. That changes the way that we process this, I'm sure, but then it also changes, I believe, the way that we look at our own mortality. So we talk about this double trauma that many of us are going through. We have concern for other people, but we also have a concern for our own health. For individuals who are in that particular situation where you get stuck there, how can you get unfixed, if you will, in terms of thinking about your own death on a regular basis, because we still don't know exactly how to stay safe. We tell us to wash our hands and do these things, but every day there's a new, wear mask, don't wear mask, wear a mask again. For people who have this sense of double trauma that's going on in their lives. What can you do to help? What can you tell them to help get them unfixed on those two aspects of life right now?
Well, there's a few thoughts that I have about that. One, when someone passes away, we usually have funerals to be able to celebrate their life. And I don't want people to feel like since we can't come together as a group to celebrate that individual, they can't be celebrated, because we still can do that. This is a time with this pandemic that we have to think outside the box and utilize resources that we may have not done before. So we want to honor that individual. So one thing that we can do is I've seen individuals write an email about how much that person meant to them, and they have sent it out to other people that they know that individual, with pictures attached to it to honor their memory. I've seen people cook a dinner at their home, that person's favorite dinner, and eat the dinner. I've seen people go on web-based calls with each other, and it might be 15, 20 people on the one call, and everybody can see everybody, and then they go through and say special remarks concerning that person. So things can be done to still honor that individual, even though we can't hug each other in this moment and in this time. And it does give you a sense of reality of what's going on. It does make you think like, oh, could I be next? And so that should kick us into drive to make sure that we are being healthy, that we're taking precautions as we need to, that we're listening and doing what we're supposed to be doing, washing our hands, cleaning things down, not going in public arenas and areas as much as possible. But I want people to be clear that you can still go outside, because you need that air, you need that sunshine. Those things help fight depression drastically. So even just to go on your porch, even just to walk down the block, the point is social distancing, being 6 feet away from other people. But if you're the only one walking on your block, get that sunshine, get that fresh air, and be able to get that motion in your body, because we don't want to get to the point where we're just sitting on the couch watching TV either. We have to keep our body energized, moving around, and things of that nature too. So again, think outside the box, take all of those things into consideration, and keep yourself healthy and strong mentally and physically. That is so important, because people are looking to you as being a resource while you're looking to other people as well. So if you stay healthy, you can still be that support for them too.
So when you talk about being that resource, that leads me to my next question about children. When we start talking about death and loss, it's already a tough conversation. But with this new world that they're living in today, it's even more difficult to talk about, or at least to venture into that conversation with the child, when just 2 days ago, that person who they love, Nana, or even their own parent, they're now passed, they're now gone, they're dead, and they didn't get an opportunity to say goodbye, and don't know when they will have a chance to do it. What would you tell that parent who's trying to guide that child through this very challenging situation, even if they don't necessarily have a complete grasp themselves of what's going on?
Parents, please be honest and upfront with your children. Death is sensitive, period, especially depending on the child's age, but don't lie to them about anything. You have to be honest. And one thing that I always stress to my parents, if you don't know the answer to a question that they ask you, it's okay to say you don't know. I stress to people, make sure that if you have a young child that's asking you what's going on, you put it in terms where they can understand. For example, when my son was 2 and a good family member of ours passed away, he was 2. So I let him know, she's in heaven living with Jesus right now, and she won't be back, and we won't be able to see her until we go to heaven too. And so he could understand and relate to that, because that's something that we have in the home, is our religious beliefs and backgrounds. And that's why I stress to people, whatever your belief system is, hold on to that tight, especially during this time, and utilize that when you're interacting with people and your kids as well. And kids grieve differently, and we have to know that as parents. Sometimes kids grieve look like temper tantrums. Sometimes they just get quiet and stay to themselves. but don't push them to go back to their normal or whatever their normal looks like. Allow them to have that grieving time and process as well, because it's affecting them. And a lot of parents are at home with their children, so you can give them a hug if they're crying, if they're upset, if they're, worried. It's okay to do that for them, because they will need that, because they're kids.
So honesty is always the best policy of the child, no matter how old they are, because as you mentioned, children understand a lot more than we give them credit for in many situations.
Yes, it's all about how you give them the information, how you say it to them, And if you want to say Granny was sick and, now she's not coming back, that's fine. You don't have to go into detail of what the disease was and, how it affected. You don't have to do that. Just put it in simple terms for them, but be honest with them and let them know what's going on.
Before we go, I appreciate you being here. I think you've given a lot of great information for people struggling through this crisis, this pandemic that we're going through right now, and dealing with grief. But for those who can't deal with this on their own, they do everything you just said, and they still feel this heaviness, and it's affecting them personally, and also, of course, those that are around them. What type of professional help can they seek right now, seeing that we're still in the shelter-in-place situation and status?
I would highly suggest that they see a professional of a therapeutic matter, for sure, because sometimes we can't just do it on our own. We need a little help and support as well, and not feel embarrassed or shame or bad about needing extra help and extra resources, but embrace it and really utilize it. During this time, there are a lot of professionals that are talking to individuals on the phone. They're talking to them through the web-based communication. So that interaction still can take place. And sometimes it's just nice to hear a friendly voice and to be able to share how you think and how you feel, emotions and things that's going on. I had a client that called me the other day, and all she did was cry on the phone, and I let her just cry, because that's just how full she was from the things that was going on in her life. And that's okay. It's all okay. And no one should feel bad about how they feel right now because of what's going on. But definitely get someone to help you that you can talk to and confide in, especially if it's been a couple weeks and it's just like a heavy weight on you and it's not lifting up. You definitely need to be able to speak to someone about that.
Dr. Carr, it may have been something that I didn't mention. Anything else you want to provide? Any other pieces of guidance that you want to drop on the audience who's watching today?
I just want to encourage everybody to stay strong and know that this will pass, and that we are here to support you and help you in any way that you need us to do that. And just, always stay true to yourself and who you are, and no matter what's going on.
Thank you so much. Dr. Chandra Miller-Carr, founder and CEO of Miller-Carr Human Services. We want to thank you again for joining us today. And please, whatever you do, make sure that you take care of yourself and your family as well, because sometimes I know from being a leader myself, we need someone to lean on as well. So you stay safe and stay healthy, you and your family as well. All right?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining us today. Well, we hope you heard some information today that will help you find ways to navigate this constant storm of bad news that we're hearing on a daily basis and keep faith for a brighter day. As I always say, we're not able to provide every answer for everybody, for every situation, but we were here today to just give you a few more tools to help you get through this challenge of a lifetime. There's more resources that will follow at the end of this video. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, stay safe, stay strong, and most importantly today, stay home unless absolutely necessary. It can not only save your life, but also the lives of others.